So now we'll start today with the static quiz, which is compilation and of September. ठीक है. देखो पहला क्वेश्चन क्या है. The president. This is consider following a statement regarding the nominated members of the Rajya Sabha. ठीक है. यहाँ हमें nominated members देखने हैं of Rajya Sabha. The president nominates the members to the Rajya Sabha as recommended by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. ठीक है. तो ये स्टेटमेंट गलत है. Nominated members have the same rights and the privileges as the elected members of राज्य सभा. ये भी गलत है. तो सही क्या है? देखो राज्य सभा has 12 nominated members from the different walks of life. The broad criteria for the nomination is that they should have distinguished themselves in the fields like literature, science, arts, social service. President nominates such individual as recommended by the center. The nominated members have the same right and privilege as elected members, with one notable difference that they cannot vote in the election of the president. इसलिए उनको बराबर का दर्जा नहीं दिया जाता. ठीक है. प्रेसिडेंट उन्हें नॉमिनेट करता है ऐसे लोगों को एज रिकमेंडेड बाय सेंटर एंड दे कैन नॉट वोट इन द इलेक्शन ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट. Then second question. The Constitution of India lays down which of the following criteria to disqualify a member of parliament. ठीक है. तो क्राइटेरिया देखो चारों ही हैं. Holding an office of profit under Government of India, unsound mind, undischarged, insolvent, and having the citizenship of another country. So if you are having citizenship of another country, undischarged, solvent, unsound mind, and office of profit. ठीक है. अब what are the basic criteria to disqualify an MP or MLA? देखो basic disqualifications criteria for an MP are laid down in the article 102 of the Constitution and for the MLA in the article 191. They can be disqualified for holding an office of profit under Government of India or state government, being of the unsound mind, being an undischarged insolvent, and not being an Indian citizen or for requiring the citizenship of another country. Fifth, consider following statement regarding the office of profit. The Pella statement. The expression office of profit has been defined in the Representation of the People Act 1951. The office of the profit law seeks to impose the principle of separation of the power between the legislature and the executive, and according to the Constitution of India, the member of parliament cannot hold any office of profit under the central government, but can hold such an office from the state government. है ना. तो इसमें देखो करेक्ट क्या है. इसमें करेक्ट जो है वो सिर्फ सेकंड स्टेटमेंट है. द ऑफिस ऑफ प्रॉफिट लॉ seeks to impose the principle of separation of power between legislature and executive. बाकी दो स्टेटमेंट गलत है. ठीक है. Expression office of profit has been defined in Representation of People Act 1951 is wrong, and according to Constitution of India, the member of parliament cannot hold any office of profit under central government but can hold such an office from the state government. This is also wrong. So second is right, first and third is wrong. Solution क्या है? Under Article 102 in the Part 1 and 191 का Part 1 of the Constitution, an MP or the MLA or the MLC is barred from holding any office of profit under the central or the state government. If an MLA or the MP hold a government office and receives the benefit from it, then that office is termed as an office of profit. A person will be disqualified if he holds an office of profit under central state government other than the office which is declared not to disqualify its holder by a law passed by parliament or state legislature. The expression office of profit has not been defined in the Constitution or in the Representation of People Act 1951. It is for the court to explain the significance and the meaning of this concept. Over the years, the courts have decided this issue in the context of special factual situation. The office of the profit law simply seeks to impose a basic feature of Constitution, the principle of separation of the power between legislature and executive. The next question. According to the rules of CBI, the Supreme Court and High Court can authorize the CBI to investigate a crime in a state only with the consent of the concerned state government. The central government can order the CBI to investigate a crime anywhere in the country without the consent of the state government. तो इसमें दोनों ही गलत है. क्यों? The CBI manual says the central government can authorize the CBI to investigate such a crime in a state, but only with the consent of the concerned state government. The Supreme Court and the High Court, however, can order the CBI to investigate such a crime anywhere in the country without the consent of the state. फिर नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, द टर्म माइनॉरिटी इज नॉट डिफाइंड इन द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, ये सही है। द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया रिकॉग्नाइजेस रिलीजियस लिंग्विस्टिक एंड एथिक माइनॉरिटीज, ठीक है। देखो ये सेकंड स्टेटमेंट गलत है। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन यूजेस द वर्ड माइनॉरिटीज इन सम आर्टिकल्स बट डज नॉट डिफाइंड एनीवेयर। मतलब आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, संविधान में माइनॉरिटीज तो दिखेगा बट आपको इसका मीनिंग नहीं दिखेगा। आर्टिकल 29 स्पीक्स ऑफ एनी सेक्शन ऑफ द सिटीजन हैविंग अ डिस्टिंक्ट लैंग्वेज, स्क्रिप्ट एंड कल्चर, and this may be a whole community generally seen as a minority or the group within a majority community. Article 30 speaks specifically of the two categories of minorities, religious and linguistic. 350A, 350B relate to linguistic minorities. Next question. Consider the following statement regarding the Supreme Court ruling in the Quijotto Holohan versus Jachilo and the other 1992 case. The court upheld the discretion available to the Speaker in the deciding cases of disqualification of MLA. Judicial review can be availed at any stage of making a decision by the Speaker or the Chairman regarding disqualification of MLA. इसमें correct क्या है? इसमें correct सिर्फ पहला statement है. The court upheld the discretion available to the Speaker in the deciding cases of the disqualification of MLA. Second is wrong. Why? मैं बताती हूँ. The Supreme Court ruling in the Kihutu Holuhan versus Jachilo and others 1992 case, the court upheld the sweeping discretion which is available to the Speaker in deciding cases of disqualification of MLA. While the Speaker decision can be challenged subsequently, the court cannot stay or prevent the process. Hence, the judicial review cannot be available at a stage which is prior to the making of a decision by the Speaker or the Chairman, and a timid action would not be permissible, nor would interference be permissible at an interlocutory stage of the proceeding. Besides, the court can review only the infirmities based on violation of constitutional mandate, malafides, non-compliance with the rule of natural justice and perversity. अगला क्वेश्चन क्या है? कंसिडर फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट रिगार्डिंग द कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ द कोर्ट्स। देखो इसमें सिर्फ पहला और दूसरा स्टेटमेंट ठीक है, तीसरा गलत है। क्यों? द कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ द कोर्ट इज द ऑफेंस ऑफ बीइंग डिसओबीडिएंट और रिस्पेक्टफुल टुवर्ड्स द कोर्ट ऑफ द लॉ एंड इट्स ऑफिसर, ये सही है, ठीक है। फिर दूसरा भी सही है। क्रिमिनल कंटेम्प्ट मीन्स द पब्लिकेशन ऑफ एनी मैटर दैट स्कैंडलाइज और लोअर्स अथॉरिटी ऑफ एनी लो कोर्ट, ये भी सही है। Third statement is wrong. The Constitution of India does not mention anything about the contempt of the court, whereas all the provisions are included in the Contempt of the Courts Act of 1971. The contempt of the court is the offence of being disobedient to or disrespectful towards a court of the law and the officers in the form of behavior that oppose or defies the authority, justice, and dignity of the court. Civil contempt means the willful disobedience of any judgment, decree, decretion, direction, order, writ, or the other process of the court, or the other process of a court, or the willful breach of an undertaking given to a court. Criminal contempt is attracted by the publication, whether by the words spoken, written, by the signs, visible representation, otherwise, of any matter, or the doing of any other act whosoever which scandalize or tend to scandalize or lower or tend the authority of any court, prejudice or interfere or tend to interfere with the due course of any judicial proceeding, interfere or tend to interfere with, obstruct or tend to obstruct the admin of justice in any other manner. इसमें relevant provisions क्या हैं? 129, 215 of Constitution of India empower the Supreme Court and High Court respectively to punish the people for the respective contempt. Section 10 of the Contempt of the Court Act of 1971 define the power of the High Court to punish the contempt of the subordinate courts. Constitution also includes the contempt of the court as a reasonable restriction to freedom of the speech and expression under Article 19, along with the element like the public order and defamation. Next question. Article 356 of the Constitution of India deals with the failure of constitutional machinery in a state. According to Constitution of India, the High Court can inquire and recommend the President rule in the state. देखो उसमें पहला स्टेटमेंट सही है, दूसरा गलत है. The Supreme Court had stayed an Andhra Pradesh High Court order intending to embark on a judicial inquiry into whether there is a constitutional breakdown in the state machinery. What the Supreme Court said. It was not up to the High Court to inquire and recommend the President rule in a state. It is Article 356 that deals with the failure of constitutional machinery in a state, and this is a power to impose the president rule exclusively based in the executive. Question number 9 क्या है? Consider the following statement regarding the concept of secularism. The Indian Constitution embodies a negative concept of secularism. ठीक है, ये तो गलत है. फिर the Western concept of secularism connotes a complete separation between religion and state. ये सही है. The Western concept of the secularism connotes a complete separation between the religion, church, and the state politics. This negative concept is applicable is inapplicable in the Indian situation. मतलब it is not available in Indian situation where society is multi-religious. Hence, Indian constitution embodies the positive concept of secularism means giving equal respect to all religion, protecting all religions equally. Consider the following statement regarding the formation of the states in India. Article 3 empowers the Parliament to admit into the Union of India, establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. ठीक है. तो ये भी गलत है. President has to refer the bill to state legislature concerned for expressing the view within a specified period or he is bound by the views of the state legislature. ये भी गलत है. देखो, Article 3 authorizes the Parliament to form a new state by the separation of the territory from any state or by uniting two or more state or the part of the states. Uniting any territory to be a part of any state, increasing area of any state, diminishing area of any state, altering the boundary of any state, altering the name of any state. However, Article 3 lays down two conditions in this regard. One, a bill contemplating the above changes can be introduced in the Parliament only when the prior recommendation of the President, and two, before recommending the bill, the President has to refer the bill to the state legislature concerned for expressing the view within a specified period. Article 2 empower the Parliament to admit into the Union of India, establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. Notably, Article 2 relates to the admission or establishment of the new states which are not part of the Union of India. Article 3, on the other hand, relate to formation of changes in the existing states of the Union of India. In other words, Article 3 deals with the internal readjustment inter se of the territories of the constituent states of the Union of India. The President is not bound by the views of the SL and may either accept or reject them, even if the views are received in the time. फिर देखो क्या है ज्योग्राफी में विंटर रेनफॉल इन द पंजाब हरियाणा दिल्ली वेस्टर्न यूपी अगर मेनली ड्यू टू द नॉर्थ ईस्ट मानसून क्रॉसिंग ओवर द बे ऑफ बंगाल अराइवल ऑफ द वीक टेम्परेचर टाइप साइक्लोन्स फ्रॉम द मेडिटेरियन सी. तो उसमें करेक्ट आंसर क्या है? बी सेकंड, अराइवल ऑफ द वीक टेम्परेट साइक्लोन्स फ्रॉम द मेडिटेरियन सी. तो यहाँ बारिश इसलिए होती है बिकॉज ऑफ द वीक टेम्परेट साइक्लोन्स फ्रॉम द मेडिटेरियन सी. The winter monsoons do not cause rainfall as they move from land to sea. It is because firstly they have little humidity, secondly due to anticyclonic circulation on the land, the possibility of the rainfall from them reduces. So most part of India do not have rainfall in the winter season. However, there are some exceptions. In the northwest India, weak temperate cyclone from Mediterranean Sea caused rainfall in the Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, western UP, and during October and November, the northeast monsoons, while crossing over the Bay of Bengal, pick up the moisture and cause the torrential rain over the Tamil Nadu coast. Southern Andhra Pradesh, Southeast Karnataka and the Southeast Kerala. तो मतलब ऊपर बारिश होती है वेस्ट टेम्परेट साइक्लोन्स की वजह से फ्रॉम द मेडिटेरियन सी और नीचे बारिश होती है आपकी वहां से नॉर्थ ईस्ट मानसून जो बे ऑफ बंगाल से आते हैं पानी लेके आते हैं. ठीक है. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग पेयर ऑफ रिवर एंड ओरिजिन. देखो इसमें करेक्ट मैच क्या है. करेक्ट तीनों है. साबरमती जो है अमरकांतक से आती है, ब्रह्मपुत्र कैलाश रेंज से आती है, कृष्णा महाबलेश्वर से आती है. ठीक है. साबरमती जो है वो वेस्ट फ्लोइंग रिवर है which originates in the Aravalli range. Brahmaputra originates from the Kailash range of Himalaya. और कृष्णा रिवर जो है वो महाबलेश्वर से आती है. Which of the following fall under the Peninsula Block of India? Peninsula Block में कौन है? चारों हैं. The Rajmahal Hills, the Aravalli Range, the Meghalaya Plateau and the Karbi Anglong Plateau. The northern boundary of the Peninsula Block may be taken as an irregular line running from the Kutch along the western flank of the Aravalli Range near the Delhi and then roughly parallel to the Yamuna and the Ganga as far as the Rajmahal Hills and the Ganga Delta. Apart from these, the Karbi Anglong and the Meghalaya Plateau in the northeast and the Rajasthan in the west are also the extensions of this block. The northeastern parts are separated by the Manda Fault in the West Bengal from the Chota Nagpur Plateau. In Rajasthan, the desert and the other desert-like features overlay this block. Which of the following are the ferrous mineral? देखो ferrous वाले मतलब आयरन वाले कौन से होते हैं? 2 and 4 निकल एंड कोबल्ट, निकल और कोबल्ट से फेरस होते हैं, ठीक है। और देखो फेरस में देखो क्या होता है, आयरन और मैंगनीज निकल कॉपर, ठीक है। आयरन और मैंगनीज निकल कॉपर, और नॉन फेरस होते हैं गोल्ड सिल्वर कॉपर लीड बॉक्साइट टिन मैग्नीशियम एक्सेट्रा। नेशन शेयरिंग द कोस्ट लाइन विद द रेड सी इंक्लूड बी 2 and 3। देखो रेड सी के पास होता है यमन और जॉर्डन, है ना। देखो जैसे इजिप्ट है, फिर नीचे सूडान, फिर साउथ सूडान, इरिट्रिया, डिजिबोती, इथोपिया, यमन, ओमान, वहाँ देखो पर्शियन गल्फ है, लेबनान, इसराइल। बट इजिप्ट और सऊदी अरेबिया के बीच में रेड सी है, तो रेड सी के पास देखो क्या क्या है, यमन है और तुम्हारा जॉर्डन है ना। Consider the following statement. During the neap tides, the high tides are a little lower and the low tides are a little higher than as usual. And unlike the spring tides, the neap tides occur twice a month, one on the full moon period and another during the new moon period. Which of the above statement is or are correct? Correct कौन सा है? सिर्फ पहला वाला। During the neap tides, the high tides are a little lower and the low tides are a little higher than as usual. ये वाला सही है, ठीक है। दूसरा गलत है। Spring tides, the position of both the sun and the moon in relation to the earth has a direct bearing on the tide height. When the sun, moon, earth are in the straight line, the height of the tide will be higher. And these are called the spring tides and they occur twice a month, one on the full moon period and another during the new moon period. 7 days after a spring tide, the sun and moon are at right angle to each other. When this happens, the bulge of the ocean caused by the sun partially cancel out the bulge of the ocean caused by the moon. And this produces moderate tides known as neap tides, meaning that the high tides are little lower and low tides are little higher than average. Neap tides occur during the first and third quarter moon when the moon appears half full. The sun halo produced by the refraction of the light in the ice crystals in the Sirius cloud. A halo is a ring or the light that forms around the sun as the sunlight reflects off the ice crystal present in a thin wheel of the Sirius cloud. The halo is especially seen as a bright white ring, although sometimes it can have the color. Consider the following statement. The earth neither warms up nor does it get cooled over a period of time. The amount of heat received by different parts of the earth is not the same. The transfer of the heat from one region to other takes place through the winds. Correct क्या है इसमें? सारे सही हैं. The earth receives almost all of the energy from the sun. The earth in turn radiates back to space energy received. As a result, earth neither warm nor does it get cooled over a period of time. Thus, the amount of heat received by different part of Earth is not the same. This variation causes pressure difference in atmosphere, leads to transfer of heat from one region to the other by the wind. Consider following statement regarding temperature inversion. It is a situation where the temperature increases with increasing altitude. A long summer night with a cloudy sky and moving air is the ideal situation for the inversion. इसमें गलत क्या है? पहला स्टेटमेंट तो ठीक है कि हाइट ऊपर बढ़ती है तो ऑल्टीट्यूड भी बढ़ जाती है, ठीक है, टेम्परेचर भी बढ़ता है। बट दूसरा स्टेटमेंट गलत है। नॉर्मली द टेम्परेचर डिक्रीजेस विद द इंक्रीज इन एलिवेशन. इट इज कॉल्ड द नॉर्मल लैप्स रेट. एट टाइम्स द सिचुएशंस आर रिवर्स्ड एंड द नॉर्मल लैप्स रेट इज इन्वर्टेड व्हिच इज कॉल्ड inversion of temperature. Inversion is especially for the short duration but quite common nonetheless. A long winter night with a clear sky and the still air is ideal situation for the inversion. The heat of the day is radiated off during the night and the early morning hours. The earth is cooler than the air above. Consider following statement regarding temperature inversion. Over the polar year, the temperature inversion takes place only during winter season. The temperature inversion in the hills and the mountains protects the plant from the forest frost damages. Which of the following statement is correct? Second statement is correct, first is wrong. क्यों? Over the polar areas, the temperature inversion is normal throughout the year. Surface inversion promotes stability in the lower layers of the atmosphere. Smoke and the dust particles get collected beneath the inversion layer and spread horizontally to fill the lower strata of the atmosphere. The dense fogs in the mornings are common occurrences, especially during winter season. And this inversion commonly lasts for the few hours until the sun comes up and begins to warm the earth. The inversion takes place in the hill and the mountain due to air drainage. Cold air at the hills and the mountains produced during night flow under the influence of gravity. Being heavy and the dense, the cold air act almost like water and move down the slope to pile up deeply in the pocket and the valley bottoms with warm air above. This is called air drainage, protects the plant from the frost damages. फिर इकोनॉमी में क्या है कंसिडर फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट रिगार्डिंग फिस्कल पॉलिसी इन इंडिया पहला स्टेटमेंट इसमें सही है fiscal policy play a key role in elevating rate of capital formation in the public sector, help in providing stimulus to elevate the savings rate, aims to achieve the full employment or the near full employment. Main objectives of fiscal policy in India are economic growth, price stability, full employment. Help maintaining economic growth rate so that the certain economic goals can be achieved. Price stability. Control the price level of the country so that when the inflation is too high, the prices can be regulated. Full employment. Aim to achieve the full employment or the near full employment as a tool to recover from the low economic activity. Importance of the fiscal policy in India. In a country like India, fiscal policy play a very key role in elevating the rate of the capital formation of both public and private sector. Through the taxation, the fiscal policy helps mobilize a considerable amount of resource for financing its numerous projects. Fiscal policy help in providing stimulus to elevate the savings rate. The fiscal policy gives the adequate incentive to the private sector to expand the activity. The fiscal policy aims to minimize the imbalance in the dispersal of the income and the wealth. Consider following statement regarding monetary policy. The responsibility of conducting monetary policy is vested with the Reserve Bank of India through the Act of Parliament. I think this statement is right. Second statement is wrong. Inflation target is set by Reserve Bank in consultation with Government of India once in every 5 years. The RBI primarily factors in the retail inflation while making the bi-monthly monetary policy. The second statement is wrong. First and third is right. RBI is vested with the responsibility of conducting monetary policy. This responsibility is explicitly mandated under the Reserve Bank of India Act of the 1934. The primary objective of the monetary policy is to maintain the price stability, keeping in mind the objective of the growth. In the May 2016, the Reserve Bank of India 1934 was amended to provide a statutory basis for the implementation of the flexible inflation targeting framework. The amended RBI Act also provides for the inflation target to be set up by the Government of India in consultation with the Reserve Bank once in every 5 years. And RBI primarily factors in retail inflation while making the bi-monthly monetary policy. Consider following statement regarding the counter-cycle fiscal policy. Become critical during economic crisis. Stabilize business cycle, reducing the spending during recession. इसमें करेक्ट क्या है पहला करेक्ट है while the counter-cycle fiscal policy is necessary to smooth out economic cycles, it becomes critical during the economic crisis. The counter-cycle fiscal policy stabilizes the business cycle by being contractionary, reduce spending or increase taxes in the good time, and expansionary, that is, increase spending or reduce taxes in the bad time. On the other hand, the pro-cyclic fiscal policy is the one where the fiscal policy reinforces the business cycles by being expansionary during good times and contractionary during recessions. Consider the following statement regarding the treasury bill or the T-bills in India. देखो इसमें treasury bills are the short-term debt instrument issued by the RBI. ये गलत है. They are the zero coupon securities that pay no interest. This is right. They are the money market instrument, short-term debt instrument issued by Government of India, issued in three tenors, 91, 182, 364 day. Treasury bill has zero coupon security and pay no interest. Instead, they are issued at a discount and redeemed at the face value at maturity. For example, the 91-day Treasury bill of 100 face value may be issued at say 98, that is a discount of say 1.80, and would be redeemed at the face value of the 100. Consider following statement regarding the government security. It is a tradable instrument which is issued by the central government or the state government. ठीक है? And ये सही है. The government securities are always long-term investment instrument. ये गलत है. And they are the risk-free gilted age securities. ये right है. A government security is a tradable instrument which is issued by the central government or the state government. Acknowledges the government debt obligation. Such securities are the short term, called the treasury bills, with the original maturities of less than 1 year, or the long term, essentially called the government bonds or dated securities with the original maturity of 1 year or more. In India, the central government issues the bond, treasury, and the bonds or dated securities, while the state governments issues only the bonds or the dated securities, which are called the state developmental loans. G-sets carry practicality, no risk of the defaulting, hence are called the risk-free gilt-edged instruments. Art and culture. This ruler convened a Buddhist council at Kashmir that eventually led to the recognition of the Mahayana sect of Buddhism. He is Kanishka. The fourth Buddhist council was held at Kundalwana, Kashmir, 72 AD, under patronage of the Kushan king Kanishka. The president of this council was Vasumitra. This council distinctly divided the Buddhism into two sects, Mahayana and Hinayana. This mudra is called the gesture of debate. The tips of thumb and index forming circle, other fingers are extended upward. This is called Vitarka mudra. The gesture of debate, discussion, Vitarka. It is a mystic gesture of the Tara and Bhuti Sattva, in which tip of finger forming circle are extended upward. Consider following statement regarding the old stone A sites. The old stone A sites were generally located away from the water sources to avoid flooding, and most of these old stone age sites are concentrated in the southern India with the exception of आदमगढ़ हिल एंड भीमबेटका. इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? इसमें दोनों ही गलत है. The old Stone Age sites are generally located near the water sources because water sources were the lifeline of the old Stone Age people, and thus the communities lived and hunted close to water sources. Several rock shelters and caves used by Paleolithic people are scattered across the subcontinent, and some of the famous sites of the old Stone Age in India are the Son Valley and the Potwar Plateau on the northwest India, the Sivag Hill on the north India, Bhimbetka in the Madhya Pradesh, Adamgarh Hill in the Narmada Valley, Kurnool in the Andhra Pradesh, Tirmapakam near Chennai. The Kailash temple located in the Ellora, known for the monolithic vertical excavation. The Kailash temple is a megalithic which is carved out of the one single rock, one of the most remarkable cave temples in India because of the size, architecture, sculpture treatment. Notable for vertical excavation, the carvers started at the top of original rock and excavated downward. The traditional methods were rigidly followed by the master architect that could not have been achieved by excavating from the front. Its construction is generally attributed to the 8th century Rashtrakuta king Krishna I. The temple architecture shows traces of Pallava style. The core tenet of the Mimamsa philosophy are ritualism, asceticism or believing God nahi hai. Mimamsa is the name of one of the six Ashtaka orthodox school of Indian philosophy. Primary inquiry is the nature of dharma, duty, on the close hermeneutics of Vedas. Its core tenets are ritualism, anti-asceticism, and anti-mysticism. फिर आता है consider the following statement regarding the opinion which is voiced by different leaders on the question of Indian support to British war effort during the Second World War. Gandhiji advocated an unconditional support to the Allied powers. Jawaharlal Nehru advocated that it was the ideal time to launch a civil disobedience movement. Subhash Chandra Bose was of the opinion that it was the right time to take advantage of the situation and snatch the freedom from the Britain. Correct is 1 and 3. मतलब से पहला और तीसरा statement सही है. Different opinions that were voiced on the question of Indian support to British war efforts. Gandhiji, who had all the sympathy for Britain in this war because of his total dislike of the fascist ideology, advocated an unconditional support to Allied powers. He said that he was not willing to embarrass British during war. Subhash Chandra and other socialists like Acharya Narendra Dev and Jay Prakash Narayan had no sympathy for either side in the war. They thought that it was the ideal time to launch civil disobedience movement to thus take advantage of the situation and snatch the freedom from the British. Nehru was not ready to accept the opinion of Gandhi or socialists. He advocated no India participation till India itself was free. However, at the same time, no advantage was to be taken of the Britain difficulty by starting an immediate civil disobedience movement. Consider the following statement regarding the August Offer 1940. It laid down the dominant status as the objective for India. First time recognized the right of the India to frame constitution. इसमें गलत कौन सा है? दोनों ही ठीक है. The Lilindo announced the August Offer, which proposed dominant status as the objective for India, expansion of the Viceroy Executive Council that could have majority of Indians, setting up of Constituent Assembly after war where Indian will decide constitution according to their pastoral condition, obligation of government regarding defense, minority rights, treaty with the states and all India services. No future constitution to be adopted without minorities' consent. For the first time, the inherent right of the Indians to frame the constitution was recognized and the Congress demand for a constituent assembly was conceded. Dominion status was explicitly offered. Gandhiji decided to launch individual satyagraha due to dissatisfaction with August offer made by British during course of Second World War. During the course of the Second World War, in order to secure the operation of the Indians, the British government made an announcement on August 1940 came to be known as August Offer. Gandhiji was not satisfied with this offer and he decided to launch the individual satyagraha. Individual satyagraha was limited, symbolic, non-violent in nature. It was led to Gandhiji to choose the satyagraha. The plan of the Sir Stafford Cripps investigate that after the Second World War, India will be given the dominion status. The main proposals of the mission is Indian Union with the dominion status would be set up, free to decide relation with the Commonwealth, free to participate in the UN and other international bodies. After the end of the war, the Constituent Assembly would be convened to frame a new constitution. Members of this assembly would be partly elected by provincial assemblies through the proportional representation and partly nominated by the princes. The British government would accept the new constitution subject to two conditions. Any province not willing to join the union will have a separate constitution and form a separate union. And the new constitution making body and British government would negotiate a treaty to effect the transfer of the power to safeguard racial religious minorities. In the meantime, the defense of India would remain in the British hands and the Governor General power would remain intact. Consider following statement regarding proposal of Cripps mission. An Indian Union with a dominant status would be set up. After the end of the war, the Constituent Assembly would be convened with all the members elected by the provincial assemblies. Defense of India would remain in the British hands. इसमें correct क्या है? C 1 and 3. Indian Union with a dominant status would be set up. This is right. And defense of India will be in the British hand. This is also right. In the March 1942, a mission headed by the Stafford Cripps was sent to India with the constitutional proposal to seek Indian support for the war. The main proposal of the missions were Indian Union with a dominant status would be set up, free to decide relation with Commonwealth, free to participate in UN and other international bodies. After the end of the war, Constituent Assembly would be convened to frame new constitution. Member of the Assembly would be partly elected by the provincial assemblies through PR and partly nominated by princes. The British government will accept new constitution on two conditions. Province not willing to join the union could have separate constitution, making separate union The new constitution making body and the British government would negotiate a treaty to effect the transfer of power to safeguard racial and religious minorities. In the meantime, defense of India will be in British hand and the Governor General power would remain intact. Consider following statement about the Quit India movement. Quit India movement was a corollary of the failure of the cabinet mission plan. A significant feature of the Quit India movement was the emergence of what came to be known as parallel governments in some part of the country. तो इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? इसमें सिर्फ सेकंड स्टेटमेंट सही है, पहला गलत है. It was in 1942 when the world was going through the havoc which is caused by the World War II. India too was facing the heat and after the Cripps mission had failed, on the 8th August 1942, Mahatma Gandhi made a do-or-die call through the Quit India movement. On August 8, 1942, Mahatma Gandhi made a do-or-die call in his Quit India speech that was delivered in Bombay at the Govila Tank Maidan. Even though the speech caused some turmoil within the party and even the leaders like the Jawaharlal Nehru and Maulana Azad were apprehensive and critical of the call, they backed it and stuck with the Gandhi leadership until the end. A significant feature of the Quit India movement was the emergence of what came to be known as the parallel government in some part of the country. The first one was proclaimed in Balia, East UP, August 1942 under leadership of Chittu Pandey. In Tamluk in the Midnapur district of Bengal, Jatiya Sarkar came into existence on 17 December 1942 and lasted till September 1944. Satara in Maharashtra emerged as the base of longest lasting and effective parallel government. During the Quit India movement, which of the following were the Gandhi general instructions spelled out to various sections of society? Government servant must resign, declared to allegiance to Congress. In the Zamindari Zada anti-government pay mutually agreed rent and zamindars are pro-government do not pay rent. Prince people of princely state must support ruler only if he is anti-government. इसमें दूसरा और तीसरा ठीक है, पहला गलत है. Gandhi's special instruction was spelled out at the Govilia Tank meeting but not actually issued. They were dated various sections. Government servants do not resign but declare your allegiance to Congress. Soldiers do not leave army but do not fire on combat troops. Student if confident leave studies. Peasants if zamindars are anti-government pay mutually agreed rent and if zamindars are pro do not pay rent. Princes support the masses and accept sovereignty of the people. Princely states people support the ruler only if he is anti-government and declare yourself to be a part of the Indian nation. फिर क्या है? During the Quit India movement, who among the following leaders carried out um, underground activity? अरुणा आसफ अली, उषा मेहता, जयप्रकाश नारायण, लाला लाजपत राय. इसमें पहले तीन अरुणा आसफ अली, उषा मेहता, जयप्रकाश नारायण. The main personalities taking up the underground activity were the Ram Manohar Lohia, Jayaprakash Narayan, Aruna Asaf Ali, Usha Mehta, Biju Patnaik, Chotubai Puranak, Achyut Patwardhan, Suchita Kripalani, R.P. Goenka, Usha Mehta. Underground radio in Bombay. Underground activity meant to keep up popular morale by continuing line of command and guidance to distribute arms and ammunition. Lala Lajpat Rai died on 17 November 1928, suffering grievous injury during lathi charge carried out by the police during the protest against the Stimulus Commission. Which of the following were the proposals of the Wavell Plan? Indianization of the Executive Council, removing any caste and religion-based quota in the Executive Council, especially power of the Governor General to exercise his veto. इसमें पहला स्टेटमेंट सही है. Main proposal was, with the exception of the Governor General and the Commander in the Chief, all the members of the Executive Council will be Indians. The caste Hindu and Muslims will have equal representation. The reconstructed council was to function as an interim government within the framework of the 1935 Act, not responsible to Central Assembly. Governor General will exercise his veto on advice of minister, and representative of different party will subject a joint list to the Viceroy for nomination to the executive. ठीक है, फिर विच ऑफ द हाँ ये हो गया था। अरेंज द फॉलोइंग हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट इन द क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर। प्रपोजल ऑफ राजगोपालचारी फॉर्मूला, ठीक है, क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट, वेवल प्लान, प्रपोजल ऑफ देसाई लीगल पैक्ट। अब देखो इसमें मुझे पता है कि राजगोपालचारी पहले आया था, फिर उसके बाद वेवल आया था और वेवल के बाद देसाई लीगल आया था, तो 1 3 4 तो होगा। तो ये 1 2 3 4, तो बी इज द आंसर, 2 1 3 4। क्विट इंडिया, फिर प्रपोजल, ठीक है, फिर देसाई लीगत और फिर आखिरी में वेवल। हम्म अब देखो क्या है, कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट रिगार्डिंग देसाई लीगत पैक्ट। Recommended for an equal number of the person nominated by the Congress and the Muslim League in the central legislature. Recommended the abolition of reserve seat for the minorities. तो इसमें सिर्फ दूसरा स्टेटमेंट सही है, पहला गलत है। The Bhulabhai Desai, the leader of the Congress party in the Central Legislative Assembly, met Liaquat Ali Khan, the deputy leader of the Muslim League in that assembly, and both of them came up with a draft proposal for the formation of an interim government at the center, which is consisting of equal number of the person nominated by the Congress and the League in the Central Legislature and 20% reserved seat for the minorities. No settlement could be reached between the Congress and the League on these lines, but the fact that a sort of parity between Congress and the League was decided upon had far-reaching consequences. The defense of the INA prisoner in the court of the law was organized by Tej Bahadur Sapru and Jawaharlal Nehru. Still, Congress support for the INA prisoner. At the first post-war Congress session in September 1945 in Bombay, strong resolution was adopted declaring Congress support for the INA cause. The defense of the INA prisoner in the court was organized by Bhulabhai Desai, Tej Bahadur Sapru, Kailash Nath Kajju, Jawaharlal Nehru and Asif Ali. INA Relief and Inquiry Committee distributed small sum of money and food and helped arrange employment for the victim. The fund collection was organized. The Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946 included the provinces that were to have the full autonomy and the residual powers. Hmm. बाकी जो है वो गलत है। कैबिनेट मिशन प्लान के मेन पॉइंट्स देखो बताती हूँ। रिजेक्शन ऑफ द डिमांड फॉर अ full-fledged Pakistan. A constituent assembly to be elected by the provincial assembly by the PR voting in 3 votes. General Muslim Sikh provinces were to have the full autonomy and the residual powers. The princely states were no longer to be under the paramountcy of the British government. They would be free to enter into an arrangement with the successor government or the British government. The main points in the Clement-Attlee Statement 1947 were the British would relinquish the power only to a central government and rejected the idea of an autonomous provincial government. Even after India's independence, the princely state would continue to remain a part of the British Empire. तो दोनों ही गलत है। एटली का स्टेटमेंट क्या था? A deadline of the June 30, 1948 was fixed for the transfer of the power, even if the Indian politicians had not agreed by the time on the constitution. The British would relinquish the power either to some form of central government or in some area to the existing provincial government if the Constituent Assembly was not fully representative. That is, half the majority That is, if the Muslim majority province did not join. The British power and obligation through the princely states would lapse with the transfer of power, but these could not be transferred to any successor government in the British India. Consider the following statement regarding the Mountbatten Plan. ठीक है, freedom to come on August 15, 1947. A boundary commission to be set up if partition was to be effected. Assassination of Hyderabad to Pakistan. इसमें correct statement पहला और दूसरा है. The Mountbatten Plan, independence for the princely states ruled out. They would join either India or Pakistan. Independence for the Bengal ruled out. The assassination of Hyderabad to Pakistan ruled out. Freedom to come on August 15, 1947, and a boundary commission to be set up if the partition was to be effected. Consider following statement regarding the Young Bengal movement. The movement was launched by Surendranath Banerjee, later gained prominence with the participation of Henry Riven Desrosiers. The movement had influence of the Russian Revolution. The movement failed to have a long-term impact. इसमें correct क्या है? B. वैसे तीसरा statement सही है. The Young Bengal movement was launched by the Henry Louis Given Desrosiers, who had come to Calcutta in 1826 and was appointed in Hindu College as a teacher. Drawing inspiration from the Great French Revolution, the Desrosiers inspired his pupil to think freely, rationally, question all, love liberty, equality, freedom, and oppose the decadent custom and tradition. The Desrosiers also supported women's rights and education. The Desrosiers, however, failed to have a long-term impact. The Desrosiers was removed from the Hindu college in 1831 because of his radicalism. The main reason for that limited success was the prevailing social condition at that time that was not right for the adoption of the radical ideas. Further, there was no support from any other social group or the class. Consider following a statement regarding Queen Victoria Proclamation of 1858. It announced the end of the East India Company rule in India and the Queen assumption of the government of India. Endorsed the treaty made by East India Company with the Indian princes and promised to respect their rights, dignity and honor. तो इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? सी. दोनों ही सही है. The proclamation of the Queen Victoria was announced by the Lord Canning at Allahabad. This royal proclamation was translated into Indian languages and publicly read in many important places, announced the end of the company rule in India and the Queen assumption of the government of India, endorsed the treaty made by the company with Indian princes and promised to respect their rights, dignity and honor, assured Indian people equal impartial protection of the law and freedom of religion and the social practices. The proclamation of the Queen Victoria gave a practical shape to the Act of 1858. Consider following statement. Indigo Rebellion in 1859 was caused due to acquisition of cultivable indigo land by British industrial projects. The Pabna Agrarian League was established in East Bengal in 1873 to resist against zamindari effort to charge the high rent and the elect talent. इसमें correct क्या है? इसमें सिर्फ दूसरा statement है. Indigo rebellion in 1859 was caused due to harsh agri-economic conditions under which indigo cultivators were put by the British planters. The Pabna Agrarian League. During the 1870s and 1880s, large part of the eastern Bengal witnessed the agrarian unrest which is caused by the oppressive practices of the zamindar. The zamindars resorted to enhance rent beyond the legal limits and prevented the tenant from acquiring occupancy rights. The peasants of the Yusufushi Paragana in the Patna district formed Agrarian League of Combination to resist the demands of the zamindars. The league organized a rent strike. The riots refused to pay the enhanced rent, challenging the zamindars in the court. The funds were raised by the Rauts to find the court cases. The struggle spread throughout the Patna and to other districts of the East Bengal. The main form of the struggle was that of legal resistance and there was very little violence. The Delhi Proposal 1927 का क्या था? Demanded to make Sindh a separate province, joint electorate with a reserved seat for Muslims, representation to the Muslims of the Punjab and Bengal in proportion to their population. इसमें correct क्या है? तीनों सही है. Earlier in December 1927, a large number of the Muslim leaders had met at Delhi and the Muslim League session involved four proposals for the demand to be incorporated into the draft constitution. And these proposals that were accepted by the Madras session of the Congress, that is December 1927, came to be known as Delhi Proposal. They were joint electorate in the place of the separate electorates with reserved seat for Muslims, one-third representation to Muslims in the Central Legislative Assembly, representation to the Muslims in the Punjab and Bengal in proportion to the population, formation of the three new Muslim majority provinces, Sindh, Balochistan, Northwest Frontier Province. Consider following statement. Khudai Gitmarkar was a serious war and struggle against the British Empire by the Pashtun in the northwest Pontic province. Ambedkar coined the term Harijan to address the depressed classes. देखो दूसरा स्टेटमेंट तो गलत है, तो दोनों ही गलत है. Khudai Gitmarkar was a non-violent struggle that was against British Empire by the Pashtun in the northwest Pontic province, and Gandhiji coined the term Harijan to address the depressed classes. Give other reasons why the rebel failed in attaining their goal during 1857. Result in which of them are correct. The rebels had no political perspective or a definite vision of the future. They were poorly served by the leader with the exception of the few. Almost half the Indian soldiers fought against their own countrymen. इसमें तीनों सही है. Although the rebel received the country of the people, sympathy of the people, country as a whole was not behind them. The merchant, intelligent Indian ruler not only kept aloof but actively supported British. The meetings were organized in Calcutta, Bombay by them to pray for the success of the British. Despite the doctrine of the lapse, the Indian rulers who expected their future to be safer with the British liberty provided them with the men and material. Indeed, the sepoys might have had a better fight of it they had received the support. Almost half the Indian soldiers not only did not revolt but fought against their own countrymen. Apart from some exceptions like the Rani Rajhansi, Kunwar Singh and the Maulvi Ahmadullah, the rebels were poorly served by the leaders. Most of them failed to realize the significance of the revolt and simply did not do enough. Bahadur Shah and the Zenat Mahal had no faith in the sepoys and negotiated with the British to secure their safety. Most of the Tolesar tried only to protect their own interests. Some of them, like the Man Singh, changed the sides several times depending on which side had the upper hand. Apart from a commonly shared hatred for the alien rule, the rebels had no political perspective or a definite vision of the future. They were all the prisoners of their own past, fighting primarily to regain the lost privileges. Unsurprisingly, they proved incapable of ushering in a new political order. The General Service Enlistment Act was one of the main causes for the Uprising of 1857. ठीक है, और इसमें करेक्ट सोल्यूशन सी है. रिक्वायर्ड एवरी इंडियन सोल्जर टू गो ओवरसीज फॉर द डिप्लॉयमेंट इफ रिक्वायर्ड. The General Service Enlistment Act of 1857 was introduced by the Charles Canning in the 1857. It required every Indian soldier to go overseas for deployment if required. It was one of the main causes of the uprising of the 1857 as it was a taboo for the Brahman in those days to cross the sea, known as the Samudra Dolanga or Sagrunang. The consider following a statement regarding Government of India Act of 1858, abolish East India Company rule in India, challenged the entire structure of Government of India that was prevailing earlier. As per the Act, the Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England, created a new office, Secretary of the State for India, vested with the complete authority and control over the Indian Navy. इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? C 134. सेकंड वाला गलत है. Change the entire structure of Government of India that was prevailing earlier. ये गलत है, बाकी सही है. This significant act was enacted in the wake of the revolt of the 1858 known as the Act for the Good Government of India, abolished the East India Company rule and transferred the power of the government territories and revenues to the British Crown. The features of the Act provided that India was to be governed in the name of Her Majesty, changed the designation of the Governor General of India to that of the Viceroy of India, direct representative of the British Crown in India. Lord Canning became the first Viceroy, ended the system of double government, abolishing Board of Control and Court of Directors, created a new office, Secretary of the State for India, vested with the complete authority and control over the Indian admin. The Secretary of the State was a member of the British Cabinet and was responsible ultimately to the British Parliament. It established a 15-member Council of India to assist the Secretary of the State for India. The Council was an advisory body. The Secretary of the State was made the chairman of the Council, constituted the Secretary of the State and Council as a body corporate capable of suing and being sued in the India and in England. The Act of 1858 was, however, largely confined to the improvement of the admin machinery by which the Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England. It did not alter in any substantial way the system of government that prevailed in India. Consider the following statement regarding the Tatya Tope. He was general in the Indian Rebellion of 1857, was defeated in the battle over the Indian troops of the East India Company at Kanpur. He collaborated with the Rani Rashmi Bhai of Jhansi to seize Lahore, Gwalior. इसमें 1 और 3 सही है, सेकंड गलत है. Tatya Tope, known as Ramchandra Pandurang Tope, notable Indian freedom fighter general in the rebellion of 1857. He won the battle over the Indian troops of the East India Company at Kanpur, and he forced General Windham to retreat from the city of Gwalior, collaborated with the Rani Lakshmi Bhai of Jhansi to seize the Gwalior. He was defeated by Sir Colin Campbell, the later Baron Clyde, on December 6, 1857, and he was hanged on the April 18, 1858 in General Meade Camp at Shivpuri. Which of the following were annexed by the British cities in the Doctrine of Lapse? Jhansi, Nagpur, Satara, Udaipur, Sambhalpur. तो उसमें सारी the final wave of annexation occurred under Lord Dalhousie was the Governor-General 1848 to 56. Indian ruler died without a mail. His kingdom would lapse, become part of the company. One after another was applied. Satara पहले थी, फिर संभालपुर, उदयपुर, नागपुर, झांसी. Finally, company took over Awadh. They said, obliged by the duty to take over the Awadh in order to free the people from the misgovernment of the Nawab. Enraged by the humiliating way in which the Nawab was deposed, the people of the Awadh joined the great revolt that broke out in 1857. The main objectives of the Pratna Samaj was to secure social justice for the oppressed. It was founded by Atma Ram Pandurang in 1867 with the aim to make people believe in one God and worship only one God. The main reformers were the intellectuals who advocated the reform of the social systems of the Hindus. It sought to remove the caste restriction, abolish the child marriage, encourage the education of the women, and end the ban on the widows in marriage. The religious meetings of the Samaj drew upon the Hindu, Buddhist, and the Christian texts. The Kuka revolt of the Punjab is aimed at reforming the Sikh religion by removing all the abuse, superstitions, and the ill practices. The Kuka movement was founded in 1840 by the Bhagat Jawahar Mal called Sian Sahib in the western Punjab. The major leader of the movement after him was Baba Ram Singh, founded the Namdhari Sikh sect. After the British took Punjab, the movement got transferred from a religious purification campaign to a political campaign. Its basic tenets were abolition of caste, similar discrimination among the Hindus, discouraging consumption of meat, alcohol, drugs, permission for intermarriage, widow remarriage, and encouraging women to step out of seclusion. Consider the following statements. During the end of the 18th century and the early 19th century, a class of rich peasants known as the Jotidar consolidated their position in the village and acquired the vast area of the land. The Jotidars were loyal to the Zamindars and helped them collect the revenue from the widows. Which of the following statements are incorrect? देखो दूसरा statement गलत है. While many zamindars were facing a crisis at the end of the 18th century, a group of the rich peasants were consolidating their positions. ठीक है, they were consolidating their positions, and this class of rich people